Hello everybody, my name is Fraser Waldron, and in this video I want to talk about the wisdom of dogs and how they live their best life every day and how sometimes humans, we do not. And so what to learn from dogs is essentially the point of this video. Yesterday, this is a crazy thought of course, but yesterday I was in Bali and I was meeting a friend for lunch. She just had turned 30 and she wanted to have kids by 32. And as we were talking, she was really stressed about this because she had this arbitrary plan to have kids by 32 for a long time. It had embedded. It was a narrative in her mind that was real to her. Like it wasn't just something abstract. It was like, I have to have kids by 32 or else. What would happen if you didn't make it? I do not know. But this was something really strong in her mind. And so she was telling me that almost every day now she was having like anxiety because she was like, I don't know if I'm moving towards the goal fast enough. Like, have I found the right guy? Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And I was sitting there and I said, I was like, well, like, can't you just like change the narrative? Or we were kind of going through like, asking questions and stuff. And as we were talking, and she was telling me that this was like essentially not ruining her life, but was like on her mind all the time. As this was happening, we were on like the street was just off to my left, and I could see a dog like walking up and down like the street because is a popular place where people are kind of walking around if there weren't cars in the way. And the dog was like smiling at everyone, those dogs that kind of like naturally smile, and his tail was wagging and he just kind of kept walking back and forth. And I thought that dog's super happy, but yet it's like a street dog. It's a street dog in Bali. I think it had a collar, so maybe it was owned by someone, but essentially like, that dog had lived on that street his whole life. It wouldn't be an ideal dog scenario for anyone from at least a North American context. You'd say, that dog has had a tough life, but dog was smiling, he's dirty, but he's like living life. He's wagging at people. People are kind of looking at him. He's looking at people. And that dog is the philosophical framework of the dog is that he's not in the future. He's not thinking about like, oh man, like, am I going to have dog babies in 2 years or puppies or whatever? Dog babies, or he's not in the past either, where he's like, oh man, like yesterday was a shit day, like, like I didn't get any food or whatever. The dog is just like in the moment all the time. And if you've had dogs in your life, like it's kind of true. I used to save dogs because I'm a hero, of course. When I was in Northern Canada, when I lived on Indigenous reserves, often there would be stray dogs who would be born in the summer, but would freeze to death in the winter. So that was sad to me. And so I used to try to send them out on like the police plane. So the police plane would come up, it would drop off food. Sometimes it would take back prisoners, but if it was empty, I'd catch a couple stray dogs and I'd put them on the plane and I'd send them out. But the plane didn't come all the time. So I would often have dogs in my house. So at one point, I remember I had over 20 dogs, puppies too, in my like immediate living situation. And all those dogs came from difficult backgrounds. I didn't take dogs who were like treated nicely or who had a home. I only took dogs that were being abused or dogs who were like strays, but in a really difficult scenario, because sometimes they do dog calls too. So like the dogs are not, they don't think humans are nice, right? Because the humans in that context were not always nice to the dogs because they do dog calls. They shoot them in the streets and stuff to reduce the numbers just in case they were aggressive, which was somewhat understandable. Anyways, that's a whole other story. But the point of that is that when I take those dogs in, I would capture them. So I had like a fishing line and stuff, or I had treats and I kind of bait them. And then I would grab them, bring them back to my house like a hostage. So the dog didn't know like it wasn't going to die tomorrow. Like that's probably what they were thinking if they had that ability to perceive that. But then within like a couple hours, they're like, oh, this is a safe place. I'm getting food. I'm in like shelter. There's other dogs who are friendly. And then like within 2 or 3 days, boom, they're like super happy. And there's no sense that they were like, an abused dog in the past. And the behaviors we would modify over like a week or two. I put them on the plane. Every dog out of several hundred, except for one dog that I can actually think of overtly, who had just a developmental issue, every dog was well-mannered and joyful, like in the moment, happy, tail wagging. We're going for a walk. Yeah, like it's super fun, right? And I'm now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, that's the ideal philosophical frame to be. I think even in Christianity, like Jesus mentions like be like the birds or something like that, where it's like they're not worried about tomorrow. They're just in the moment right now, So like, why are you worried about the future? And I think this is a key difference between, let's say, the animal world and the human world, is that we have the ability to articulate the past in some way, which of course is useful, but can also be bad if you do it wrong or do it incorrectly, or maybe your narrative's incorrect. You don't change it enough, or you extrapolate into the future, like my friend did, who had created an arbitrary date. Like, why not 33? Why not 34? No, it was 32. Like, it's 32 or the world is going to end. So, which is like funny to me, but like to her, it was like, this is like life and death. So eventually we were able to kind of Socratic method it, ask a bunch of questions like, is 32 in the room with us? I mean, is the narrative real? Like, can you touch it? You know, like those kind of questions. And I was able to kind of walk her out to being like, hey, if it's not 32, it's okay. And maybe there's other factors that you can't control. Because as we know in like the Stoic model, outcomes are out of your control. The way you frame things can be useful or not useful. So maybe when she said, I want to have kids by 32, 10 years ago, maybe that was a useful frame because it helped her orientate in the world. But now maybe it wasn't as useful. Maybe we need to reframe it to be more effective given her current context. And she agreed with all that. It's fine. But then I said, hey, listen, I was like, this dog, you know, he's so happy. I was like, we should be like dogs most of the day. And she was like, no, I don't want to be a dog. And I was like, no, you want to be a dog. Because think about it. If you chose only to worry about that issue, let's say kids at 32, let's say it's my situation. I'm 30 and I want to have kids in 2 years. Even though I'm not 30, I want to have kids in 2 years. I would just, maybe a better way to frame that would say, once a day, I'm going to look at my journal or I'm going to look at my my goal list, let's say, and then I'm going to only worry and plan for like 1 hour a day. So for 23 hours, I'm just not going to think about that, and I'm going to be like a dog. I'm going to be in the moment, which again, our call to action or discipline of action in Stoicism, which is my personal favorite philosophy, is to be good in nature. So to be good is to be for others. But the to be part is to be in the moment. You're not in the future with anxiety, like what's around the corner. Because you don't know, right? You can't control the future. It's unknowable. You don't have perfect information. How could you ever know? And then in the past, because we're in the moment, we're not in the past either with regret. Now, you don't have to have regret, but some people do, right? They've generated a story about their lives where there's regret, and that's not useful operationally necessarily either, right? So in that case, if you were a dog 23 hours of the day, you'd just be like at the park chasing the ball in whatever you want to do naturally, where your intuition guides you, where your vision takes you, let's say. Yeah. And then maybe an hour a day, you go, listen, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to be really worried for an hour, and I'm going to have anxiety about having kids in 2 years. And I can articulate in the past, that today, have I moved towards the vision, towards that way station, towards that goal? Yes, cool. Then the day was good. If not, you say, oh, maybe tomorrow, what should I do to move myself towards that goal? Should I go on a date? Should I ask my partner to marry me, or whatever your situation is? And then once that 1 hour period or however long is done, you like close the book and you go, I'm not going to think about this. I'm activating dog mode, which is I'm just being in the moment. It's very Buddhist, very Zen, right? We're just in the moment. We're letting things flow. I'm the dog in the park. I see a ball. I go chase because why not? Life's good and everything's fine, right? And then maybe the next day, I actually move towards that goal more. Maybe I have a little bit less anxiety. Maybe I do some cognitive behavioral therapy to reframe it, to make it not so intense, do or die, because why not 33? Why not 31, right? As opposed to 2 years, why not 2 years and a day? Like, what's the difference? And let's break that down. But fundamentally, I think being like a dog is actually quite useful in most scenarios. So I'm going to try it out and I'll report back maybe in a month or something like that. But giving the moment 100% attention, I think, is strongly articulated in both Eastern and Western philosophical traditions. And so I think that that's good advice in general. And I think when I look at dogs, they're actually doing it because they might not have the ability to think too far in the future or think too or articulate things in the past. And that can be a blessing. Now, of course, you want to keep those because you want to be able to maneuver space. You want to invest over the long term in yourself and others, and invest in like the stock market. Long-term thinking is required to be a human being for sure, but you can definitely afford to be in the moment, especially when you're having fun. So I'm going to try that. I'm going to try to be more mindful. And every time I see a dog now, it's going to cue me that I need to have kids in 2 years. Hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you in the next video.